to return it to the schools and let them sell it. So that would be the motion.
I make a motion that we return the surplus school radio tower back to the school division to be surplused.
Second. Second. Motion made by Mr. Seeley, seconded by Mr. Akers. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item number 8. We wanted to talk about the proposed policy on publication of delinquent personal property taxpayer list. Mr. Cully, did you have a recommendation, or you are letting the board do it? I know Mrs. Kern is here, but we're pretty much waiting. Mr. Black?
I was just saying that the board should make the decision.
Yeah, but I was asking if there was a staff recommendation before we got to that. So what is your opinion?
First of all, I see in here, I thought it was over $30, Ms. Kern. Is it 20 or 30? Because I thought the last time, maybe I'm mistaken, I thought it was anything over $30 you could print. Now I'm seeing 20, maybe.
The code section for publishing is, it can't be less than $20 is the code section as far as the tax amount due.
Okay.
So, I mean, but the board could decide to, raise that. It's just that legally you can't publish anything less than $20 in tax.
Okay. I thought it had been 30, but it's not a big deal. Okay, thank you.
I would also recommend that if you do publish it, you allow us to publish it on the website as well. I think it's cost effective.
That's the one that won't cost anything, basically.
Right, very cost effective.
You know.
I'm not saying in replace of, but just
In addition to? Okay. Well, what's the board desire on this? We discussed it. Ms. Kern has put a couple of things in. Top 100 would cover everybody up to 1,700. The top 200 goes down to 1,000. She also says that some publish the top 40.
Mr. Chairman, I mean, and this is just my own personal opinion, I think you got to print them all. I think it sends a message loud and clear that if we're owed $1.9 million, paying your taxes is not an option. It's not an option. You got to do it. It's a responsibility. And if it was a business, any business would go after them. So I mean, I think you go ahead, and I think it'll benefit us. I think you go ahead and publish them all, up to minus the 20. I mean, she is, from what it sounds like the last time, she's given them ample warning. She showed us an example of a bill that says you're subject to being printed.
Okay, Mr. Taylor, you have an opinion?
I will go along with whatever the majority of the board says.
Ms. Akers?
I liked, because Mrs. Kern has put in her letter, some possibilities. As you said, the top 100, top 200. And the way I read your letter, Mrs. Kern, you're saying that because we went through the list, and we know that a number of the people that owes large amounts of money are no longer in business. So that money, at some point, just has to be written off because they're no longer in business, they filed bankruptcy or what have you, and we didn't get in line to get our share of whatever they had, if they had anything. I just wonder how much, and are you saying that the $1.6 million that's owed, you've taken all of those amounts out of that total?
How do you collect from deceased taxpayers?
In fact, that's what you're saying. You said it's not including.
The 1.6 does not include the bankruptcies or those folks that we know, and have coded as deceased, and it doesn't include those folks that have a signed formal payment arrangement. If it's like a business that's out of, they were a corporation, they were LLC, there were no assets when they closed the doors, those are still in that 1.6 because we don't have the right to write it off until it's more than 5 years old.
Right. I'm just wondering how much of this 1.6 those people make up. I understand the fact that, and the need to send a message, and I'm all for sending a message. But it's not going to be cheap publishing these individuals and these names in the Freelance Star and in the Carolina Progress, and there's a new newspaper online. And so I just think we have to look at it. I know when I worked for the state, we would spend $10 to find 1 penny if that was an error in the accounting process. Now, what sense that made, I don't know. But I guess it's sending a message that we're willing to pay $10 to collect 1 penny from you, or 5 cents from you. And I didn't see the sense in that. But that was a policy, and that's what we had to do.
I mean, if the board wants to move forward with publishing the list in the newspaper, I think maybe we should let us prepare the list, submit it to the newspaper, and see how many pages it's going to be, because it's 4,000 names with the years they owe, the names, and the amounts. So, I mean, it's going to be, I don't think you can fit that all on 1 page.
And and it may not be a bad idea to look at maybe the top 100 or the top 200 to see what response you get, to see how well people respond to that. Nobody wants to see their name in the paper saying you owe taxes, I don't guess. They do, or they'd rather not. But I just think that maybe instead of going full force to begin with, we start out with something less than full force, and if that's successful, then hey, you move it up to maybe 200 or 300 until you get them all that have been paid. That's my thought process.
Mr. Seeley?
The top 200 would take us down to what dollar amount?
They would owe tax of $1,000.
Any idea what the top 500 would take us to?
I don't. I would have to take a look at that.
Because I think even if you buy a half a page, it's going to be columns of people in alphabetical order. A lot of names will fit. I mean, we do the graduating class of 300 on less than a page.
But you got to put the year that they owe.
Yeah, but it's two, one narrow column, one wide column, and you've got, if you had a half a page.
Don't you have to put each year as to
Well, I
what
was
they
putting
owe?
the years in there. I don't guess, I mean, like whether you have to publish the years. I mean, other localities do. They publish the years that they owe and the amount and their name.
Yeah, the years need to go.
If you're going to make an impact, you have to let them know that you're 10 years or 5 years or whatever it
But,
is.
I mean, if there are, what did we say, 1,400?
There's 1,400, I think it's 1,450 that owe $100 in tax and less out of the 4,000.
So everybody else owes more than $100.
Correct.
Yeah, I'd like to see us more than 200. I'd like to see the top 500, and I think it's a good idea. Send over what 500 would look like to the papers and see how much space that takes up.
Okay.
Because I do think that a lot of folks are paying their taxes, and I was pretty shocked to learn that it takes us 3 years to actually get the full real estate tax from everybody in the county, because the delinquents stay delinquent as long as they can. And I think that puts an undue burden on everybody else that pays their taxes. So I'd like to look at, I'm all for the mock-up. Let's see where 500 takes us, what that line is.
Can we ask her to go through and pull out the people, the LLCs and people that have gone out of business that had no assets to draw from?
Well, that's
She's already done that.
That's going to be
Well,
more
no,
work.
we have not.
Okay.
She
removed
hasn't done
those.
that.
No, she hasn't
Yeah.
done that.
See, and that's going to,
Bankruptcies.
that's where we're spending $10 to collect a penny, because
Right.
we're going to stress their office out to produce this list. You have the list already because you gave it to us on CDs. Or you
Right.
gave it to Mr. Cully, who gave it to us on CDs. So take that list, regardless of whether those companies are out of business, makes it easier to print, if that's what we decide to do,
Yeah, there's no point in going after somebody that we're never, I mean, if they're gone out of business, they're done.
Yeah, they're not going to
Yeah, but I mean,
But we may not know that either.
And, Yeah.
We don't- you
There's
don't
no
know
way
that.
for us to, and we can go into the State Corporation Commission and see, but I mean, that's, the
Yeah,
folks that are
that's-
trying to do that and code all the accounts
we're
are
better
also
off
the same
publishing
ones
the
trying to
name.
Yeah,
collect
that's just
it.
staff time.
Mr.
We're
Chairman,
just better off publishing the name.
I
All
guess
right.
my concern is this, is if you say, all right, let's say that there's, because I got the CD in front of me, and I mean, how many, we got 4,000 accounts?
There's 4,000 now, once you
Yeah, I mean,
eliminate the payment
I tried
plans.
looking, I almost fell asleep. I mean, the names, you're going through all the names, it's insane how many names are on here. But if you go with 500, let's say the 500 cutoff point is $125, and then 501 is $124.99. How fair is it that the person who owes $125 name is printed, but the person who owes $124.99 is not, because there's a difference between 500 and 501 on the list?
But it doesn't mean it's not going to be printed. It just means it's not going to be printed this year, maybe printed next year.
No.
And
I
they
mean, to
have-
me, it's a discrimination. To me, you got to go all in. I mean, that's just my opinion. You got to go all in. And if there's $1.9 million that's owed, I mean, if there's $1.9 million that's owed, the cost to advertise in the paper, the freelance, I mean, what's the cost in the freelance star for a full page ad?
We have no idea. So, all right, let's do a couple of things first. One is, I think we all agree that before we publish however many names it is, we need to have Mrs. Kern figure out how much that's going to cost, maybe per page.
Okay.
So if it costs X number of dollars per page, then we can say, okay, at $500 a page, we want to do 5 pages, or we only want to do 3 pages, and we'll figure that out.
Well, they had sent us, and that's why I'd like to be able, and hopefully, I think the papers will work with us.
The mock-up
To
thing,
send them a list of names and see how much, we can get on a page. Because
Okay.
they did give us some prices per page, but I don't know how many names with the information that's required,
Okay.
will fit on a page.
All right.
Do you remember, just out of curiosity, do you remember what they gave you for, let's say, the freelance? I mean, I'm just.
I want to say the freelance, and they did call back and say that they would work with us if we were going to do an ad of this size, but I believe they quoted like $3,400.
A page.
That's it.
Okay.
That's yeah.
All right.
That's not that bad.
All right, I think we're kind of discussing it, and we're not really sure of all of the details. So, do we agree, first of all, that we want to publish some names? We all agree we want to publish some names?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So we do want to publish some names.
Okay.
So now let's take the approach of saying, how many names can we fit on a page? How much is that page going to cost us? And then we will decide, based on those numbers, at our next board meeting, how many we're going to publish.
Okay.
Okay, is that fair?
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right, that's what we will do.
Can,
That sounds like a compromise.
It-
It's such a bad word. All right, Mr. Black?
I'm gonna open this can of worms. Can we get the next list, which is the real estate?
Sure.
Okay. I mean, I really do
Yeah, 'cause this is
appreciate
just
this.
personal property.
I mean, these were personal property, but most of our income is not personal property. Most of our income is real estate.
Right.
And so is that
Oh,
a
to see if they
possibility?
do-
Is-
That we can run the real estate list as well.
Okay. All right, that would be, because you can go on eTreasure. I was playing with the eTreasure. You can go on eTreasure and get the real estate anyway, so I mean.
Right, that is public information.
Right.
Can
Okay.
you- So you can, okay, it is public information.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can look on there and see anybody's.
You look on what now? What is it called?
eTreasure. It's on our county website.
You can look up anybody's
You paid your
anybody's real estate, what they pay. Kind of scary, but you can.
Most people tell you to pay too much.
So I just out of curiosity, how long would that take you to generate?
Could probably have it by the first of the week.
Wow, okay, that's great. If you could give it to Mr. Cully, would you mind?
The next real estate list,
Yes.
so you send it to Mr. Cully, same process.
That's when
Should be a little smoother now that we finally worked out all the kinks.
That's where you get.
Well, we'll have to make sure that the ones are coded, that, have pay agrees. I
Right.
will eliminate those. but-
And again, we're at least a month away from publishing any names, period, because we have to come back in a couple of weeks at our board meeting to decide, and then we'll probably give people a couple of weeks to make a payment plan so they get removed off the list, and then we'll publish.
I have the real estate ones that have, that we've already turned over to Sands Anderson for collection. Do you want those included, not included? They've already been turned over to be sold.
So what do you know about those? You're saying that. What do you know?
If they're still, I guess it would be if they're still legally in their name. You know, if
There's
it's still,
still,
if
you know,
if
there are
it's still
still
legally in that
delinquent
person's name,
taxes.
why not?
Just trying to make sure
Yeah,
what
yeah.
you want on the list.
I'm just, yeah, and I just have a quick question. In the bills that you sent, and I do appreciate, because the bill, as Mr. Akers had asked about last time, and you had already, you know, you had already put on the bills that you're subject to having your name printed. Have you seen a increase in?
I really have, I mean, we have had maybe one or two people say they didn't want their name in the paper. I mean, the bulk of the collections, I believe, are coming from, some of them are coming from the notices we sent, but the majority of the payments coming from those notices are anywhere from $20 to $70, you know, seeing a couple of $100 in payments. A lot of it's coming from the employee liens that we're putting at the third-party liens against the wages of, you know, of the taxpayer, and DMV stops.
Okay.
So I don't know.
And just out of curiosity, on the real estate side of things, is that lien on the house the biggest, or the property the biggest weapon you have on the real estate side of things?
The real estate is less of a percentage. I mean, most of that is collected. We have a lot of it coming from the mortgage companies, but we don't, you know, that is the biggest amount of the tax. You know, as far as the uncollected?
Yeah, the uncollected. I mean, I guess like I'm saying, if I don't have a mortgage and it's not an escrow or whatever, and I just decide I don't want to pay Caroline County taxes.
She sells your house in 3 years.
Well, is that?
She sells your house in 3 years. That's what happens. So there's no lien. If you go 3 years, she reports it to Sam's Anderson, and then they sell your house to collect that tax debt.
Right.
So that's bigger than a lien.
Yeah, right, okay. I got you. All right.
Okay.
And we're getting 10% interest on that money.
Right, I got you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Kern. We're good. You're going to give us an idea what it costs at our next meeting, and we'll do you very early in the agenda. You can just say how much it costs per page, how many names fit on the page. Then we'll decide how many pages to publish from there and let you know through Mr. Cully. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay, we have 2 VDOT detours, but I just thought the Comprehensive Service Act and the Social Services folks were sitting here just to watch the meeting, but you're on the agenda, so why don't we move you ahead some? And you're here to tell us why we need to have a full-time CSA coordinator.
Yes, sir. First, I'd like to introduce some people. You all know me as Ann Tyree, the Assistant Director of Social Services, but I am also the CSA Fiscal Agent, which is a county program, not a social services program. I have with me Pat Wright, who's chair of the CPMT team, which is the team which oversees CSA, and I have Wendy Sneed, our CSA coordinator. Since Mrs. Sneed came to work with us in January, we've seen some substantial savings to the program of over $80,000. She has also put some procedures in place to prevent some additional cost. I'd like to have Mrs. Sneed speak to you and just give you a little general overview of CSA, because I'm not sure everyone really understands what it is. I think you all know it's a very, very expensive program that for the past few years really has not been supervised by too much of anybody, but we're looking at $2.4 million in expenses for this past fiscal year, and I think it's critical that we really look at this program. So I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about what CSA is, and she can answer any of your questions about it.
Good evening. Comprehensive Services Act for At-Risk Youth and Families was a law enacted in 1993. This created a single pool of funding to purchase services. The funds came from Community Services Board, Court Services, Department of Social Services, Health Department, and public schools. We serve a mandated population that includes foster care prevention cases, and special education cases through the school. We have a team that meets monthly. It's the Family Assessment and Planning Team, otherwise known as FAPT, one of our many acronyms. Its membership consists of Community Service Board members, social services, public schools, court services, and a parent representative. We assess cases, we approve services according to the service plan that's presented and negotiated at the meeting, and then we will reassess those cases for progress. The Community Policy and Management team that Ann referred to, is our governing body. It has a membership that is the same as the FAPT, but it also includes a member from the health department and a private provider representative. This team also meets monthly and approves the funding and provides policy and guidance for the overall CSA program. As Ann stated, our fiscal year 2014 budget was almost $2.4 million. We serve 58 children, 24 in foster care, 5 in parental placements, which is a function of foster care, but it's in which parents retain custody and children are receiving residential treatment for their mental health needs. One case was for foster care prevention, and there were 28 children receiving special education special education services that we funded. I started in this part-time position in January. I've worked to empower these teams to really scrutinize the quality and quantity of the service that we're providing for these children. We've looked at maximizing our Title IV funding. This is federal funding that does not require a local match. We've worked towards termination of ineffective or inappropriate placements. We've worked to avoid state audit findings by following state CSA policy as well as our own local policy. Worked to challenge non-Medicaid funded residential placements, thereby lessening the local burden. We've worked to promote decreases in treatment foster care case management levels. These are for foster children whose needs rise above just being placed in a regular foster home. We pay for case management through a private agency, and that can cost anywhere from $67 to $136 per day. It's a calendar day. So it's important that these children work through the level system to come down so that they receive the appropriate level of service and we're not paying too much per day. We've worked to terminate duplicate services. We've worked to ensure appropriate placement documentation submitted for Medicaid payment of residential placements as well as treatment foster care placements. This can translate into up to $393.50 per day for residential placement that state and local funds must pay instead of a straight Medicaid payment, which still has a local match, but it's much lower percentage. We've increased the parental copayment scale so that it's now in line with the Rappahannock Area Community Services Board scale. And overall, I've worked very hard at ensuring that all of our children are receiving the appropriate services in the least restrictive environment and that we are good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. I would submit that the savings that we've realized through this appropriate monitoring and management will more than cover a full-time position for the CSA coordinator, and this will result in better outcomes for the children that we serve. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions? You have a question, Mr.
Yes, I do. Okay, so what you are asking is to move from a part-time position to a full-time position?
Yes, we are requesting that it become, currently the position is 20 hours a week, and we would like it to become a full-time position, be it Mrs. Sneed or anybody else that's in that position. With the kind of staggering numbers we have, we feel that we have to have that full-time monitoring to get a grip on the spending and make sure that what we're doing is appropriate. Okay. One of the other things we didn't mention is the Office of Comprehensive Services will be doing an audit of Caroline County in the year 2015, and we really have to make sure our ducks in a row so that we don't face any kind of chargebacks to the county.
Okay. Do you have money in your budget to fund that?
We are requesting the $31,000 from the Board of Supervisors. We can, as long as the position falls under social services, we can claim some reimbursement for it, but very little. It's the percentage change. It's what's called pass-through funds. Currently, the reimbursement rate is 29%. It fluctuates from anywhere from 26 to 35%, and we're using the average of 29% because that's what it's been for the last 6 months.
And I don't have a problem with the position. I'm very familiar with FAP from being with the school system all those years, and I understand how the program works. And certainly I don't doubt that it's not a needed position. I guess I just want to make sure that the funds are going to be available to, to do that. You have a new director, is that right?
Yes.
But the director is not here tonight?
No, the CSA position actually does not fall under her. I am the direct supervisor of it, and then beyond me, it is the CPMT team.
Awesome.
Because it really is a county position. It's not just a social services function. We're serving kids that are social services kids. The majority of the kids we are serving right now are special education students from the schools. We get some referrals from mental health and from the court service unit. The whole point of the CSA was to pool all of these agencies together for the at-risk children so that you would have the team approach to come up with the best recommendation for services. And then you have the financial oversight from the CPMT team, who also is responsible for recommending or approving policies and procedures for the locality.
Good, that's all I have.
Okay, no other questions? You brought Mrs. Richardson from the Social Services Board,
She is here for support, yes. That's Mrs. Jean Richardson, who is the Mattapanai Social Services Board representative.
How does she feel about this? Oh, she wants it to be full-time?
Yes.
Okay.
All of it, we did discuss it at our Social Services Board, and I believe all of the board members were in support of it.
Okay, and the net cost?
Mr. Seeley, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I took it to be that they all were very supportive of it.
Okay, and the net cost you gave to Mr. Taylor was $29,000 more?
$31,360.
$31,360. Additional funds.
But thus far, we have already found more savings than that. So
okay.
It's not really costing you anything.
I've heard that before. It was on sale, so I saved a lot of money.
Seriously, Mr. Taylor, I'm sorry, Mr. Thomas.
Oh, you just lost my vote. Never mind. What's next on the agenda? You can sit back down now.
I've been involved.
Keep talking. You can keep talking.
Seriously, I've been involved with the CSA since it first started. We started out with a budget of about $55,000.
Right.
10 years later, it jumped up to $190,000, and here we are, not 10 years later, over $2 million.
Mr.
Unfortunately, we can't make it go away. I wish I could say that, but we can make sure that we are controlling the growth and getting the best bang for our buck.
Right, and Mr. Parton had already informed us that you had saved $80,000, so now we're going to invest $31,000. I'm not sure this $80,000 saving is going to happen every year, but it's probably worth the investment. So, okay. Any other discussions? We would have to find that money from the unencumbered balance?
That is correct. But the administration, both Alan and I believe that this is an important position with the oversight that's needed. And if you kind of keep going through part-time people, you really lose that. And you could lose way more money than that $31,000 additional money each year.
And this is our third part-time person already.
Okay. So we really feel strongly it's an important position, should be full-time.
We felt that way too. What's my name?
Gee, I forgot. Mr. Thomas.
Just say chairman and you're all set.
Discussion?
That's right.
Motion would be in order?
I so move the adoption of the proposed upgrade of the Comprehensive Services Act Coordinator to full-time status.
Okay, Mr. Thomas moves that it goes to full-time. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Call me Mr. Black.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. I won't mistake your name again.
I'm the one with less hair. All right, we've got 9 and 10, and I think we've discussed these indirectly. Well, maybe not less hair anymore. 9 and 10, we've discussed these indirectly. Mr. Satterwhite from the school board came out and discussed these with Mr. Taylor and myself. Nelson Hill Road is in the Mattaponi District. Stonewall Jackson is in the Port Royal District. Both of these are VDOT detours that we feel will probably impact citizens adversely if we go with the full detour as opposed to closing one lane over the bridge while we repair it. I think in Mr. Taylor's case, a 20-mile detour for school buses is a bit ridiculous. And in Nelson Hill Road, they'd be going all the way around and through Milford each time, so that's probably not a good idea. So if there are no comments or differing opinions from the board, since this was just information we'll pass on to VDOT, that we would oppose these total closures and go with the longer single-lane closures. That's okay? Do you think I need a motion to that effect? All right. Mr. Taylor, would you like to make a motion to that effect?
I would so move that we oppose the closing of Route 722 in Nelson Road and Route 606 on Stonewall Jackson for the inconvenience that it would be to citizens.
Second.
Yeah, we oppose both of them. Okay.
Do they need to be?
Discussion. That's what she said. I ignored that. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Okay. We, Mr. Akers seconded it. We are, with all due respect to the county attorney, who we respect a lot, pay attention to, we're just voicing our opinion based on comments from, and include the comments from the school transportation coordinator. I was just kidding. I never ignored it. But we're both saying we oppose both of those. So, all right. G12, capital improvements project. And then closing board comments, and we're done. Till closed meeting.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we included the capital projects report, the first one of a little information summaries that you have. You can see that the radio system is now 61% complete. We have expended a fair amount of that money as we're getting the tower sites on. The school projects are now spending a little bit of money. Bowling Green, of course, hasn't spent any, but still has $1 million left. Down on the utilities, most of those projects are complete, as you see, and those are the monies that are remaining. You have your ridership report from Fred, and your calendar, our next meeting being the 9th, which will be at a regular time, because our last two have both been
Back on schedule.
been early. And we have the groundbreaking for the high school, 10 a.m. on the 19th, 10 to 11 at the high school, and at State Fair at the end of the month.
We do have, we have 2 meetings before the state fair. We're going to add those other things.
Oh, the 50-mile meal is on at 4:30 on the second meeting on the 23rd.
23rd.
Right. So we'll have one meeting at a regular time.
Well, yes. Okay, and you mentioned the radio system was 60% complete?
60% paid out.
60% paid out.
Yeah, we approved.
Are we going
We
to end
don't-
up going into the, sorry, Mr.
We have to go into the spring to do the leaf test.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that's no way we're going to get it done before leaf.
Right. It won't be totally accepted until at least the spring, but it will be functional.
It'll be operational.
Operational.
And we'll be using it?
Yeah.
Not completely, because it can't turn off the other system until acceptance, but they'll be able to be used for testing, that type of thing. But yeah, until we can kind of get through that.
We can't accept it without the leaf test.
I understand. I was just hoping we'd go through a little more use of it while it was still in that preliminary sort of mode.
I guess you can still use it in a test. You know, it's like, you know, when you have dual accounting systems, you go from another one, you use one for a while.
In theory, that is correct.
It
But
won't
according
be
to
installed.
Motorola is not going to turn it on for our use until they know it meets the standard by which the contract states. So we will not be able to use it ourselves. It will, as Mr. Cully said, be functional. Motorola may be doing some tests. They will have the radios in the trucks, but they will be taking away the microphone, so we cannot use that until they validate the numbers and it is turned over to us by contract.
Right. And that's, I guess that's fair for them. Because if we start using it and it doesn't work, we'll have issues. Well, we're supposed to test it and make sure. But all right, the big key there I knew was we had to wait for the actual leaf test. Okay.
Question.
Yes, sir.
I have a question about the wastewater treatment plant expansion.
Yes, sir.
Based on the numbers that we were given tonight in work session, the original contract was for $16,452, but with the change orders, it brought it to $16,963,000, but spent to date was $17,205.
That might be a Ms. Hatcher.
And I think I sent Mr. Shebel home because he wasn't feeling well.
He's been struggling.
There's some other, I know there was the contract, but there was some other expenses that were being paid. If you remember, we borrowed the money for the wastewater plant and Caroline Pines at the same time. It's in the same issue. And some of the monies that are left over from Caroline Pines are being used to pay for other things for the plant outside of the actual contract.
Yeah, I think that change order for the SCADA, when we brought that before y'all, we told you we were going to pay for that money out of savings we had on the water side, but I can go back and research that. Remember when we upgraded all the well heads and all that stuff under the SCADA that was not in the original contract for the wastewater treatment plant?
We're showing $148,000 for, on change order number 4, on the information that was given to us today.
Right.
But that brought it to $16,963,000.
That's just the contract. There have been other expenses, other purchases to do with the expansion of the plant that are not just the construction contract.
Oh yeah, we had to have a thing that's called a lull that moves the inside where the debris falls out of the screen of and it's inside a building, so you couldn't get in it with a forklift. So we actually have that what's called a lull, which looks like a forklift but on a different truck. So we bought that. I think that was like $23,000 used to move that box because it has to come out of there and be emptied, that type of thing. And you couldn't get to it with a regular small forklift. So there's been some equipment purchases
Some
like
equipment,
that
some
along the way.
furnishings, that kind of thing.
Can you find out what that is? Because
I can give you, I have the list.
discount.
I can give you the list.
$270,000 a lot for a...
Did you say furniture?
Oh, no, it wasn't. That was like 23, I think.
Yeah. Well, the difference in 16.9 and 17.2 is...
Yeah.
There's also the work that was done on the road into the plant is out of there.
Right.
You can just send that to us just because we've got one thing, and we can't criticize anybody else for saying their numbers never match up if ours don't. So our numbers matched up in terms of the budget, but that overage isn't accounted for, and we just want to account for that. So if you can
That was a road.
get that to me.
I
that
think
would
what
help.
Mr. Shebel had in there was strictly the
plant.
NEB contract itself, not anything else. And there have been other costs outside the
The
contract.
driveway surface is in here, so there
Yeah.
are some of the things you mentioned in there.
Yeah, the soils,
Well, I don't have
backup,
that report, so I can't tell
driveway.
you.
That's okay. Mr. Cully's got it. The 16,936,070 matched up perfectly. But we spent more than that, so we just want to know what that other $270,000 was for. And you could let us know, or you could let Mr. Cully know, and he'll disseminate to us.
I'll be glad to.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, Mr. Taylor, closing board comments. Mr. Black? Mr. Mr. Akers?
No, sir.
Mr. Seeley?
No, sir.
And I have none. And we need a motion to go into closed session under Section 2.23711A5, discussion concerning a prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the businesses or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Akers, seconded by Mr. Taylor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Excuse me, all those opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously. We will be in closed meeting. We will need a motion to come out of closed, excuse me. We will need a motion to come out of closed meeting first.
So move.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Taylor, seconded by Mr. Akers to come out of closed meeting. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Taylor, do you certify that only those things we went into to discuss for closed meeting were discussed?
I so certify.
Mr. Black?
I so certify.
Mr. Akers?
I so certify.
Mr. Seeley?
I so certify.
And I so certify. There is no action from the closed meeting, so a motion to adjourn would please be in order.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.